Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshulamitanjena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Guruve Gaurachandraya Radhikaye Tadalaye Krishnaya Krishna Bhaktaya Tad Bhaktaya Namo Namaha. Yam Pravajantam Anupeta Apeta Krityam Rapaino Viraha Katara Ajuhava Putreti Tanmaitaya Tadavo Binedus Tam Sarvabhutam Hridayam Munimanatosmi Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatam Vyasam Tato Jayamudirayat Bhaktya Vihina Parada Lakshai Kiptastakamari Tarangamadye Kripa Maitvam Sharanam Prapanna Vrinde Namaste Charanadavindam Tavevasmi Najivami Tvayavina Iti Vigyaya Radhe Tam Nayanam Charanandike Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhubhya Evacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha. So, we're going to finish up this Srimad Bhagavatam chapter, and we're going to first offer our most humble obeisance unto the lotus feet of our beloved Gurus, unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nitya Lila Bhavishta Om Vishnu Pad Asto Tarasata Sri Simad Abhaya Charanaravinda Bhaktivedanta Swami Prabhupada, and unto Sri Guru Pada Padma Nitya Lila Bhavishta Om Vishnu Pad Asto Tarasat Sri Simad Bhaktivedanta Narayan Goswami Raj, and unto our exalted Rupanuga Varga, and all the assembled Vaishnavas and Vaishnavis. Okay. So, let's see. Okay. Wait a minute, what's going on here? Are we hooked up? Okay. The phone doesn't show us being hooked up. I don't want to join the voice here. I want to see who's... There we go. Okay. All right. So, we have been hearing about the birth of Lord Krishna and the subsequent events, and then the coming into contact with the first demoness, Putana, the atrocities of King Kamsa, the meeting of Nanda Maharaj and Vasudeva, and the warning about the atrocities that are being committed, the danger that may befall Vrindavan. Nanda Maharaj returning home to see the gigantic body of Putana, dead, 12 miles long, having crushed the prized orchard, and when she fell down, the prized orchard of King Kamsa, baby Krishna playing on her breast, the shock, the terror of all the inhabitants of Vrindavan, but then everything worked out, right? And then the mothers, the gopis, the elderly gopis, friends of Mother Yashoda, arranged for auspicious blessings and protection for the child. The cowherd men took the body, chopped it up, burned it, and it created a beautiful fragrance, like the sweetest incense, because she had been touched by the Lord's lotus lips and lotus hands and lotus feet. Had clutched on her like a baby monkey, right, onto that breast, and she could not dislodge herself, despite being as strong as Kamsa, 10,000 elephants. No, she's practically undefeatable. But that tiny little baby, just a few days old, was able to kill her. Of course, none of the inhabitants of Vrindavan understood that. They thought somehow or other, by the protection of Lord Narayan, our child has been saved. And they were brought back to life. Right? Interesting, because we know the story some time later, a few years, when Krishna is taking milk from his mother early in the morning, and she's churning yogurt and boiling milk, and when the milk boils over, to save the milk, she has to put her child down. And Krishna does not want to be put down. And with all his strength, he holds on to her breast because he loves taking her breast milk so much. But she, with one hand, very easily puts him down. He's actually older. He should be stronger. And she does it so easily with one hand. Why? What's her power? Power of prem. Her Vatsalya prem overcome. Krishna had a different desire. He wanted to take the milk, but she wanted to save the milk. He wanted to take her breast milk, which is liquefied motherly love, and she wanted to save the milk because that milk was meant for serving her son in so many ways, making different sweets like that. So now we're going to hear about the finishing of this story. The last thing we read was, because of Krishna's having sucked the breast of the Rakshasi Putana when Krishna killed her, she was immediately freed of all material contamination. Her sinful reactions automatically vanished, and therefore when her gigantic body was being burnt, the smoke emanating from her body was fragrant like aguru incense. Just checking. Gotta check this. Somehow or other, it always ends up with just my head peeking over the edge here. It looks weird. I look like Rahu. Just a head moving. All right, back to the text. So, next verse. Putana was always hankering for the blood of human children, and with that desire she came to kill Krishna. But because she offered her breast to the Lord, she attained the greatest achievement. What then is to be said of those who had natural devotion and affection for Krishna as mothers, and who offered him their breast to suck, or offered something very dear as a mother offers something for a child? Right, this section is very important. It shows the extraordinary mercy of the Lord from the very beginning, right? Even somebody with very mixed motives, yet Krishna took the best from her. Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur says, quote, "If a person offers service with an attempt to kill the Lord and attains the goal of life, how much more will a person attain who offers with a neutral attitude? How much more will a person attain who offers with faith? How much more will a person attain who offers with pure bhakti? If a person worships an avatar of the Lord, he will attain the supreme destination. But how much more will a person attain who worships Sri Krishna, the source of all avatars?" Now, the next verse speaks to the same point, so we'll read that and then the purport. No, actually, it's his commentary. Quote, "If one offers a poisoned breast to Krishna and attains the supreme destination, how much more will one attain?" Oh, wait a minute. I think just don't let me be confused here. Oh, 2 verses. Okay. This is the next verse. "If one offers a poisoned breast to Krishna and attains the supreme destination, how much more will one attain by offering a more poisonous object? If one offers a dear object, certainly one will attain a higher destination. But when one offers a dearer object, then how much more will he attain? And if one offers the dearmost object, he will certainly attain the highest destination." So for that, Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur continues and says, if Putana, a demoniac Rakshasi, could attain the highest destination, then what can be attained by a faithful human being? If one is a devotee, how much more will he attain? And will not a pure devotee of the Lord attain the highest reward? then what to speak of the elderly gopis who had extreme affection for the Lord during the stealing of the calves by Lord Brahma? Paying respects to Mother Jashoda from a distance, I have placed her in the highest position. Therefore, I will write no more because her love for Krishna is beyond words. Right, he can't speak to that love, it's so high. In the compilation lectures by Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj from the Bhagavatam describing the glories of, in the Venu Gita, of the gopis are glorifying different devotees. There's one verse where they're glorifying the cowherd boys. No, I'm sorry, not cowherd boys, Mother Jashoda. And when Srila Narayan Maharaj is speaking on her love, he also says a similar thing. Her love is so high, I fear to try to describe it. How can we understand it? But there's something here that we should take note. We're struggling with our own anarthas, right? What's an anartha? What's an aparad? It's that which separates us from love and affection, right? And yet, within us, there's something there. Something's been awakened. We're not neutral. We've awakened desire to serve the Lord. Faith is there. So we should take great comfort and heart in this, that at least, the mixture of our anya bilash, our separate desires aren't that we want to wrestle and kill Krishna, we want to kill him with poison. No, we're not like that, but we do have separate desire. But Krishna is so merciful that one with faith, who's awakened some faith, you should be assured that very soon Krishna will take us. I just heard a very short little statement by Srila Prabhupada. They come up on the net, this whole series of shorts, right? And this one's saying basically the same thing, that if you've awakened a little faith for Krishna, Krishna guaranteed has claimed you as his own and will take you in a short time. Right? In a short time. What does short time mean? It might mean at the end of this life. It might mean 1 or 2 births, right? What if it meant 10 births? The story of Mukunda with Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. And when Mahaprabhu was greeting all the devotees, revealing himself in all of his different avatar forms, counseling them and consoling them and assuring them and telling them all about his connection with them, even though they didn't know who he was with them nevertheless, and then glorifying all of them. But he wouldn't see Mukunda. And Mukunda was beloved of all the devotees. He sang so nicely for the Lord. He's a great devotee. Now this is a pastime. But Mukunda also, for some reason, would sometimes attend the lectures of the impersonalist yogis and hear their commentaries on Bhagavad Gita. And this displeased Mahaprabhu greatly. So he said, Mukunda pretends to be one of us when he's with us, and then he goes with them and pretends to be one of them. I have no use for such a person. I don't want to see Mukunda. And he'd been standing outside waiting to be called, and so the devotees went out and said, oh, the Lord won't see you. So then Mukunda said, please ask the Lord if there's any time when he will see me. And so they went back and they asked Mahaprabhu, is there any time when you will see him? Forgive him. Tell Mukunda that I will see him after 1,000,000 births. And the devotees went, oh no, how can we tell him that? 1,000,000 births. And, but dutifully they went out. And Mukunda was very anxious to hear, and they said, the Lord said he will see you after 1,000,000 births. And to their surprise and shock, Mukunda began to dance in ecstasy. And they said, why are you dancing? He said 1,000,000 births. Well, that's a long time. If you live 100 years, that's 100 million years. How many kalpas is that? A yuga cycle is 4.5 million. That's 20 yuga cycles. That's greater than the life of Manu and the demigods. But he was dancing, and he said, because he's accepted me. He said he will take me. And that assurance alone was enough to pacify his heart. Right? That's all the devotee wants. The Lord has accepted me. So anybody who has taken up the service, and again, I mentioned this a lot, but in the second verse of the first chapter, the very beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, talking about the benefit of hearing this kind of Harikatha, right? Dharmak projita kaitavo tra paramo nirmat saranam satam, talking about the purity, the quality of this bhakti and the Srimad Bhagavatam, completely free from any tinge of material or mixed spiritual energy or purpose, completely embraced and understood by those nirmat saranam satam, those who are without any envy and pure in heart. And the result is, for those persons, sadyo hridya varutyate chakirtibhish rashushabhish takshana. The Lord claims them and enters their heart. And Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur says, for those, they get prem instantly or very quickly, those kinds of persons. But he says more. In fact, the Lord means that anyone who hears the Bhagavatam, I claim them as one of mine, right? So just sitting here, you've been claimed, right? But he says, so what to speak of one who hears with attention, right? Oh, I'm very interested in this. Oh, very interested. And what to speak of one who hears with faith, right? Each level is even more potent. So hearing with a little faith, he said, so then they'll also get praying, but it may take a little longer. So if you've come to the stage of faith, that's very high. And faith in the beginning, it's weak, it's komala. But by constant hearing, this is the process. You will automatically grow. And you might not see it in your own heart because we're covered, we can't see. But Srila Narayana Maharaj says, you cannot see the changes in your heart. I can see them. It's remarkable. Srila Prabhupada also said amazing things about his disciples that we could not see ourselves. But it was following the conceptions of these verses, the story of Putana, right? This verse in Bhagavatam, which lays out the philosophical foundation which is being revealed in this pastime. Right? So Putana, who offered her poison, but she also offered her breast, which was like a mother. But there's more to that story. Wait, there's more. How did she take birth? Well, let's read this next verse and then we'll do it. Next two verses. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is always situated within the core of the heart of the pure devotee, and he is always offered prayers by such worshipable personalities as Lord Brahma and Lord Shiva. Because Krishna embraced Putana's body with great pleasure and sucked her breast, although she was a great witch, she attained the position of a mother in the transcendental world and thus achieved the highest perfection. What then is to be said of the cows whose nipples Krishna sucked with great pleasure and who offered their milk very jubilantly with affection, exactly like that of a mother? So he's showing Putana was offered a position in one Prakoshta, Vrindavan, Goloka, where she's like a nursemaid. She's not actually a mother, but she's like a nursemaid, right? Which is like a mother. That kind of affection is there. But it's not necessarily as developed, or even as developed as the cows, but still extraordinary. Higher than even any place in Vaikuntha, or Dwarka, for that matter. So, Cakravarti Thakur says, these two verses describe the greatness of Putana's attainment through the mercy of the Lord. Even though Putana was Rakshasi, her body was tread upon by Krishna's feet, which are situated in the hearts of the devotees and worshipped by those worthy of worship. Putana's breast milk was drunk by Krishna, and she attained the supreme abode as a mother of the Lord. Krishna's feet are situated only in the hearts of the devotees. But Putana was neither a devotee nor a non-devotee. She was an enemy of Krishna. Krishna's lotus feet are worshipped by worshipable personalities such as Brahma and Shiva. But Putana did not worship Krishna's feet. Rather, she did the opposite. At the time of her death, Putana tried to dislodge Krishna's feet from her chest. Unable to do so, she began to beat them with all her strength. Krishna stepped on Putana forcefully with his feet, not just touching her, but he was jamming his feet. He was holding like 2 hands and 2 feet, clutching her like that. Right? Where did Putana go at the time of her death? She attained Vaikuntha. Vaikuntha doesn't mean just the places of Lord Narayan, it means the whole spiritual realm. This is explained in Bhagavatam 11:7:1. Quote, Lord Brahma, Lord Shiva, and all other planetary rulers are praying to live in Vaikuntha. End quote. Lord Brahma says in Srimad Bhagavatam, 14th chapter of 10th canto, where he's offering prayers after the Brahma Vimohana Lila, Putana attained you along with her family members, right? Her 2 brothers, Agasura and, what's the other? Was it Bakasura? Yeah. They also became eligible to attain Golok because they tried to kill him as well, but they were her brothers. And so because she attained it, they also got that benediction. According to these 2 verses, the word Swarga must mean Svavasam, your personal abode or Vaikuntha. The word does not refer to the material heavenly planets called Swarga. And he gives another word, Janani Gatim, the destiny of a mother. Which Vaikuntha planet did Putana attain? The verse explains that Putana attained the same planet as Mother Jashoda, Janani Gatim. Therefore, Putana attained Goloka. But her position was predominated by happiness and reverence. She did not attain the place predominated by service in prema. One cannot say that she attained the status of a mother. Verse 36 of the 6th chapter of this canto says that place is reserved for those who are anuragi bhaktas, in other words, following the mothers with pure loving attachment for Krishna. See, so even to go to Goloka Vrindavan planet, there are gradations, different places. And the place of Braj, we have to be Jananugami, right? That verse of Rupa Goswami, that we have to be Tishtan Vrajay Tad Anuragi Jananugami. We want to go to Braj, but we need to follow in the footsteps of those special Ragatmaka Bhaktas, not Bhaktas, eternal associates. And it also means that we have to follow in the footsteps, not directly of those devotees, but those who are following those devotees. Like for us, to follow means to follow our acharyas. We're following Rupa Goswami, who is Rupa Manjari. Right? For others, it means to follow those who have the mood of Vatsalya, worshiping in Vatsalya, and personalities like, if you want to go to Vatsalya, then you worship personalities like the wife of Srivas Thakur, Malini, who's nursing Nityananda, right? Others in Mahaprabhu's Leela were like Ambika, personal nursemaid of Krishna, Mother Shachi, right? Following those who are devotees of her. If you want to be a cowherd boy, you follow personalities like in the line of Gauridas Pandit, right? Who is Subal. Right? But we're following in the line of Rupa Goswami, who is giving us access to service as maidservants of Srimati Radhika. Everything is available in the service of Mahaprabhu, but there are different branches of the tree of Mahaprabhu. Our line, which Srila Prabhupada came in, is specifically the line of Rupa Goswami. All of the acharyas preceding our Srila Prabhupada and his own guru, and we discussed this a little bit on his appearance day, Namaste Saraswati Deve. He defines himself as a follower. That means a follower of his external mission, Gauravani Prachadine, but with the speciality of pursuing Braj Prem in the same mood as his guru, right? His guru, if otherwise, how could he teach and present this to the world, that which Mahaprabhu had come to give, right? Inapatachiram charat koranavatirna kalo samar payatam unnata ujvala rasam swabhakti sriyam. Swabhakti sriyam, broken down, means that bhakti to Srimati Radhika, right? Sriyam, Shri means Srimati Radhika herself, that special kind of bhakti. Anyway, so the destiny, which Vaikuntha planet did Putana attain? This verse explains that Putana attained the same planet as Mother Jashoda. Therefore, Putana attained Goloka, but her position was predominated by happiness and reverence. She did not attain the place predominated by service and prema. One cannot say she attained the status of a mother. The verse of the 6th chapter we quoted says that place is reserved for those who are anuragi, with pure loving attachment for Krishna. Here, verse 38 says that the cows and motherly gopis who fed milk to Krishna during the Brahma Vimohana Leela attained a higher destination than Putana. Right. In Brahma Vimohana Leela, Krishna assumed the identity of all the cowherd boys and all the calves, so that those cows and the mothers of all the cowherd boys could experience directly the joy of serving Krishna as a mother, right? Because Krishna, although he appeared as their sons or as their calves, was directly the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so they got that special joy, right? So, higher. How could Putana, whose enmity was equal to Kamsa's, though she imitated the dress and emotion of a gopi, attain the same status as Yashoda? Therefore, Uddhava says in Srimad Bhagavatam in 3rd canto, 2nd chapter, 23rd verse, Lebe gatim datri uchitam. Putana attained a status like a nurse. Thus, in the present verse, some interpret the word janani, mother, to be datri, nurse. But even then, one should not say that Putana was a direct nurse of Krishna. Rather, she attained a form like a nurse in Goloka, filled with sukh aishvarya, reverential happiness. So there's two kinds of status in Vaikuntha, sukh aishvarya and prema aishvarya, right? One is the joy of being there in that status, close to the Lord, in the environment of the devotion, but your own happiness predominates. The other is prema aishvarya, where you're absorbed in prema in a particular mood of service which has been awakened. So she was in Goloka, extraordinarily high position, but was not developed in prema like Mother Jashoda and others. So how did Putana get to this position? Where is she from? One thing that we mentioned on Janmashtami Day was, following some of the descriptions of Srila Bhaktivedanta Narayan Maharaj, when Krishna comes, he has many, many purposes which he fulfills all at once. The overall general purpose, we heard, was, yada yadahi dharmasya glanir bhavati bharata, right? Abhutanam dharmasya tadatmanam srijamyaham. Whenever there's a decline of religion, right, I come and I teach it. I bring religion back to the world, millennium after millennium. And put it taranaya sarunam vinashaya chaduchkatam Dharma sangstarpanartaya sambhavami yuge yuge. I kill the demons, or as in Mahaprabhu's case, I purify them, right? And sometimes, as in Krishna's case, he will liberate them in a special way. And I'll protect the devotees, right? And that has many meanings as well. And I will reestablish Dharma. But that's a broad general purpose, right? He also comes to fulfill specific desires of devotees from their previous births and benedictions they may have received in previous births, right? Just like Lord Ramachandra blessed the Municharis and Shrutidaris and the Rajkumaris in Janakpur, who, when they saw Lord Ram marrying Sita, they also wanted to marry Ram. But no, you can't. I'm only taking one life. But I bless you in your next life. You can marry me when I assume my original form, and you'll be a gopi. Right? And the Shrutidaris and Municharis who were doing their service in the forest or meditation, they're also blessed in a similar way. But Putana, she, in her previous birth, was the daughter of Bali Maharaj. Maybe you know this story. You've heard this? You probably heard this. You heard this? Okay. So she was the daughter of Bali Maharaj. And when Sri Vamandev came to the sacrificial arena, she was enchanted by his beauty, beautiful golden dwarf. And her own Vatsalya Prem was awakened. She said, what a beautiful child, because he came as a young boy Brahmana. Said, oh, if I had a child like that, I would nurse him with my breast milk. And she had this deep desire to exchange motherly love and affection and service with Vamandev. And he glanced at her and accepted that wish, yes, because he had personally come. That welled up in her heart so strongly. He's so merciful, yes. And then, after her father had been tricked by that same Vaman Raj, lost everything, and then was tied up in the assembly and humiliated externally, and the Lord put his feet on his head because he requested that. She couldn't understand that, and she became so angry. She said, yes, if I had a child like you, I would give you my breast, but with poison on it, I would kill you. And he glanced at her, yes, I give you that too. So she had those two desires. So he fulfilled both of them. I accept you as a mother, yes, I'm taking that. He took the best of the desire and allowed her to be in that role as Putana. But her love, her prem was, not really developed. It was for her own happiness that she wanted that. But she was the daughter of Bali Maharaj, and so Lord Nrsingadev had blessed Prahlad Maharaj that all these generations, your future generations, they will all be protected and become devotees. So she was the great-granddaughter of Prahlad Maharaj. Bali was the grandson, right? And she was the great-granddaughter. So she was in that line, protected. Right? So, then this next two verses, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the bestower of many benedictions, including liberation or oneness with the Brahman effulgence. For that personality of Godhead, the gopis always felt maternal love, and Krishna sucked their breasts with full satisfaction. Therefore, because of their relationship as mother and son, although the gopis were engaged in various family activities, one should never think that they returned to this material world after leaving their bodies. So some gopis left their bodies. Those are the ones that were blessed to take their final birth in Krishna Lila. But also there are Nitya Siddha gopis. This is the Sadhan Siddha gopis, right? Those gopis that also took part in the Katyayani Vrat, right? Asking for Krishna as their husband. And some gopis that had the pastime of coming from different villages and marrying some Gopa in Vrindavan. They came from different places. We also need to do that. When we reach the stage of where we become aware of our Siddha Deha, in that state of Bhav, and become acquainted in the highest stages of Bhav Bhakti and understanding Ras, then, as Srila Prabhupada explains in Krishna book, at the end of the story of is it Nanda Maharaj being swallowed by the snake and then saved by Krishna, or the time when the cowherd men saw, with the blessings of Krishna, the spiritual world, Srila Prabhupada says that we will also have the opportunity to go to Krishna in some place of his pastimes, and then we'll see him for the very first time. And then in those pastimes, our prema and our love becomes perfected. Because even these extraordinary gopis, there's still a few things that have to be perfected. And that means you have to associate with the Nitya Siddha devotees and learn the absolute most divine, sublime aspects of their prema. Right? Get to associate with the associates of Srimati Radharani and learn that most extraordinary kind of prema. That's why on the last day of Katyani Vrat, those gopis performing that vrat requested Radhika and her associates to come and bless their ceremony and be with them. Right? So, Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur says, by saying that the elderly gopis attained more than Putana in going to Vaikuntha, there is a contradiction to the statement that enmity and affection lead to the same goal. That statement, taken literally, would lead to criticism of the Lord for lack of discrimination. If it is true that the elderly gopis attained more than Putana, who attained Vaikuntha, then what did they attain? That should be explained. With this in mind, the present verse is spoken. You see how important it is to hear these commentaries, because if you just read this by yourself and try to analyze it, then what will you get? I mean, you say you just want to read Bhagavad Gita, right? I just want to read the verses of Bhagavad Gita, right? I don't want to read any commentary or anything. I just want to read the pure verse, right? But what will you get out of that, right? You won't get anything except your own mental speculation. You may, if you're most fortunate, get some samskara, right? Oh, I'm reading Bhagavad Gita, some bhakti sukriti. But if you want to enter into the spirit of Bhagavad Gita and the service that can be awakened by that process, then you have to read the commentaries, translations and commentaries of our acharyas. That's why Srila Prabhupada stressed over and over Bhagavad Gita as it is. Otherwise, you're just associating and taking instruction from your own mind. And what good is that? What good is that? So many subtle traps on the path of bhakti. I'm only mentioning because someone said that the other day. And I don't think they even realized what they were saying when they said, I just want to hear the verses without any interpretation. And they said later, oh, but when I say interpretation, I mean something different. Well, whatever you mean, the illumination, it's illumination. It's the doorway to understanding the verses. Otherwise, what do you have? There are so many scholars and people around the world who can recite to you Bhagavad Gita backwards and forwards and don't have an iota of understanding. And here, Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur is saying the same thing. Oh, it appears if you read this, there may be some contradiction or confusion. So, that should be explained. With this in mind, the present verse is spoken. Though Krishna is the bestower of all sorts of goals, such as liberation, he drank Putana's breast milk with extremely rare awareness. Lord Brahma says in the Bhagavatam, that same 14th chapter, fortunate are the cows and gopis whose sweet breast milk Krishna drank in great bliss. End quote. With this rare awareness, Krishna thinks, whatever they want, I will give. And as well, whatever I want, they are willing to give. So he's talking about the reciprocal love of those on that highest platform. What do they want? They want to make Krishna happy with their milk. That's what they want. They're not seeking the joy of having Krishna sucking my breast milk. They're seeking to give Krishna great pleasure by that act. But automatically, their own joy will come. Right? The joy they have is through that specific kind of seva. So whatever they want, I will give, and as well, whatever I want, they are willing to give. Okay, end quote. Since whatever is desired is easily attained, Krishna certainly will give to the cows and gopis a suitable reward. Higher than Vaikuntha or even Goloka, Krishna will grant them Boma Vrindavan, which is the most attractive of all. Though Krishna appeared from Devaki's womb, he did not drink her milk, but he regularly drank the milk of the gopis. Boma Vrindavan is Krishna appearing with his Dham in this world, but Jiva Goswami says in many ways it could be considered superior even to the Goloka Vrindavan planet, because there's speciality of Leela here that exists there as Abhiman, as conception, even one crude way of understanding it is like a memory and awareness, but it takes place here. But there's no difference between the two. They're harmonized. They're exactly the same, but it appears here. So, Krishna is Devaki Putra, the son of Devaki. Thus, by mentioning Krishna as Devaki Putra in this verse, it is implied that the gopis were more attractive to him. Samsaro, birth and death cycle. One should not think that Krishna liberated the gopis from samsara, for they already had no material bondage. There is no bondage for those engaged in the Lord's service. The samsara ensnares those attached to house, husband, and sons. Krishna drank milk from the gopis' breasts and played in their houses. Krishna's father was their husband, and Krishna was their son. This attachment did not breed samsara. That is the intent of this verse. And Sutekshana means the elderly gopis looked on Krishna as their son. For them, samsara did not occur. Samsara is born of ignorance. A jnani's knowledge of Brahman puts an end to samsara. However, better than that is the Shanta Bhakta's realization of Bhagavan as Brahman. Better yet is the Dasya Bhakta who realizes Lord Krishna as his master. By that, the Lord becomes controlled. Superior to that is the Sakya Bhakta, who treats the Lord like a friend. Higher than that is the Vatsalya Bhakta, who realizes the Lord as a son. And here there is a gradation of release from samsara according to the degree of surrender of the Lord to the devotee. That's a speciality of Mahaprabhu. Prior to Mahaprabhu and his followers, this subtle distinction of the gradation of rasa is not really defined and explained. It's not all the same, right? So the speciality of our line is the ability to attain that highest stage, which he's explaining here. Right? So, then, last three verses. Upon smelling the fragrance of the smoke emanating from Putana's burning body, many inhabitants of Brajabhumi in distant places were astonished. Where is this fragrance coming from, they asked. Thus they went to the spot where Putana's body was being burnt. So Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur said it was so divine, they thought maybe it's coming from the heavenly planets. Kuvera city? What is this? Then, when the inhabitants of Braj, who had come from distant places, heard the whole story of how Putana had come and then been killed by Krishna, they were certainly astonished. And they offered their blessings to the child for his wonderful deed of killing Putana. Nanda Maharaj, of course, was very much obliged to Vasudeva, who had foreseen the incident and simply thanked him, thinking how wonderful Vasudeva was. Now, it says here that they attribute they said that Krishna killed this demon. Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur says, the returning cowherd men were very astonished. Vasudeva has spoken correctly. In discussing amongst themselves, they said, who else but Narayan could protect the baby? So even though they say, oh, it appears that Krishna killed this baby, this Putana, but how could a baby do this? Certainly Narayan has done this through him. Right? And then, O Maharaj Parikshit, best of the Kurus, Nanda Maharaj was very liberal and simple. He immediately took his son Krishna on his lap as if Krishna had returned from death. And by formally smelling his son's head, Nanda Maharaj undoubtedly enjoyed transcendental bliss. And Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur says that Nanda Maharaj lamented, why did I go to Mathura? What was I thinking? Right? And then everyone else, he's thinking, how could these dull doorkeepers not prevent anyone from entering the house? The nature of prem, right? I'm a fool, they're fools. It's all about protecting my son. Last verse, any person. Okay, here you go. Talking about the benefits of this, right? Ya etat putana moksham krishnasya bhakam adbhutam shrunuyach chadhaya martyo govinda labhateratim. Any person who hears with faith and devotion about how Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, killed Putana, and who thus invests his hearing in such childhood pastimes of Krishna, certainly attains attachment for Govinda, the Supreme Original Person. So Visvanath Cakravarti Thakur confirms anyone who faithfully hears the childhood pastimes of Krishna, Krishnasya arbakam. So if we don't have faith, we want to pray for more faith, right? I've got a little bit. Please give me more. Please more. I want to be absorbed and filled with, faith, astonishment, and love with these pastimes. So if you faithfully hear the childhood pastimes of Krishna and the liberation of Putana, and accepts them as most astonishing, how could you not, will obtain attraction for Govinda. An alternate reading for the word shunuyach, hears, is nishamya, hearing. Taking that reading, the meaning becomes, anyone who hears the childhood pastimes of Krishna and the liberation of Putana with faith will attain attraction to Govinda and everything related to Govinda. So that means the symptom of that awakening will be attraction for seva, that is more hearing. Oh, I want to hear more. When's the next class? Oh, when's the next Bhagavatam class? Is there a class tonight? Do I have a free moment? Let me read something. Or, God, I'm pretty tired today. I'm busy. I was up late. I don't need to go to class, But when you have faith and eagerness, they're part of the same tattva, right? The evolution, we talk about faith and then association with a pure devotee and then taking initiation, right? Then engaging in bhajana kriya, the actions of, the seva to Sri Guru. Then from that, an artanavriti, right? Removal of obstacles, gradually. And then what? Then one comes to nishta, steadiness, right? Steadiness is something you got to practice at, right? All right, I don't want to get up this morning, but I'm going to get up. I don't care. I'll take a nap after if I have to, but I'm going to Bangalartik. Because why? Because I get to chant before the deities. They're waking up. They're engaging in a pastime. I can't see it, but it's there. Let me sing to glorify that pastime and pray that something awakens in my heart. And sometimes when I go, I'm tired and when's that over? But sometimes I go and I feel some joy and happiness, right? And then, class is going to be there. I got to go. I don't want to miss it. Whatever happens later in the day, I could sleep the whole rest of the day, but let me hear the Bhagavatam, right? Oh, cooking breakfast? Oh, is that my duty? Oh, somehow or other I got to make sure. I'm going to do that, and when am I going to cook? Do we have the ingredients? Just thinking about the seva, right? And taking joy in that. And throughout the day like that, that's awakening faith that's maturing in the manifestation of your service and the attraction to being steady in that service, because you take joy in service. I don't want to do anything but service all day long. And that will happen from that. Ruchi, taste, special taste, real spiritual taste, right? Shuddhanam, the real holy name. And then deep attachment, and then bhav in all its glory and stages. So that's that. Now tomorrow, we're going to start reading from this book that I just downloaded. Oh wait, and it's all about Srimati Radhika. So say goodbye to everybody on this thing. All glories to the Prabhupada, glories to the Gurudev, glory to all the assembled Vaishnavas, Vaishnavis, our Guru Parampara, Haribol, Haribol.